We talk a lot on this podcast about ways that maybe we don't fit into traditional social and cultural settings, one of them being school. In today's episode of The Written Compass, I have the immense pleasure of having good friend, longtime colleague, and fellow writing coach, Dr. Cindy Urbanski, who's going to talk to us about her new books, Getting Schooled on Resistance. And in our conversation, we talk everything from why maybe students don't feel like they fit into school, and maybe you have that story or you know people who've had that story, and what it might feel like to repurpose, reimagine the writing that you've already done. This is a powerful story, and I'm super excited you're here, so let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Written Compass. I am super excited today because I've got my writing bestie here with me, and we're going to be talking about lots of different things. But most importantly, we are going to be leaning into and talking about her amazing new version of a book she has previously published. I'm super excited to introduce and welcome Dr. Cindy Urbanski. Hey.
Hello.
So Cindy and I have a long history. We met in Summer Institute of the National Writing Project, which Cindy and I have been involved in over the years in various ways. And we met at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte for that particular course and program. And we instantly connected and have just been working together and friends ever since. And we both have similar backgrounds. We went through the same PhD program, and we both love writing and talking about writing and writing about writing and other things. And we work together now to support our writers. Cindy is our lead writing coach in Synergy Publishing Group. And so we basically talk every day and talk about all the things in life and in writing. So I'm super excited to have you here today. And Cindy, I'm excited to talk about your process for getting schooled on resistance. So I want you to start with a little bit of how did this book, because it's newer but not brand new, kind of come to be. So tell us the story a little bit.
So this book started as my dissertation, and I fell in love with it as I was writing my dissertation, because I was lucky enough to have Lil Brandon as my chair and all flibberty gibbet about, I don't write research, narratives, blah, blah, blah. And she told me I was a storyteller. I had always been a storyteller, and waved her magic permission wand for me to use my storytelling powers in my dissertation. And so it was not dissertation when I wrote it, and then it became even more of a narrative when I published it under the title Untangling Urban Middle School Reform in 2017. And it was either 2016 or 2017. It's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
However, it is a narrative. It is stories of schools, one particular school, an urban middle school, but it is also the story of school and the story of students in schools and teachers in schools and administrators in schools. And so what I had the privilege to do was collect all these beautiful, powerful stories and put them out into the world. So I don't see this as my story by any stretch of the imagination. This is the story of students in a large urban school district that were marked good or bad, and teachers that were marked good or bad, and administrators that were marked good or bad. And what I'm critiquing is that moniker, because the good students, teachers, administrators did as they were told. And the bad, y'all can't see my quotey fingers, but I've got them going all over the place here. The bad ones busted right on out of the box and set it on fire. And it was just so telling that, and now all these years later, I'm still in touch with all of these people, and they are doing wonderful, amazing things out in the world because they were the bad student, bad teacher, bad administrator. So that is the story. And then the book didn't do really well. I didn't do a lot of marketing. I didn't know I was supposed to do a lot of marketing. It was traditionally published. Somehow I missed that memo. And then the pandemic happened, and I was rereading the book last summer and was like, wow, this is really current. This is what we're talking about now, because we've gone from scripted programs and worksheets to Chromebooks with scripted programs. It's the same stuff, just more expensive. And the students who are in trouble with their Chromebooks are off on the side creating some magnificent something that, in my opinion, they should be getting kudos for, because they're done with whatever scripted assignment they've been given through the big conglomerate that has said this is the thing you're supposed to learn. Yeah. So they get outside of the box and then they're in trouble. So it's same story, just with more blinky lights.
Right. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So many things. So I'm my writing coach hat is on. And so I just want to go back and first, for people who, for whatever reason, maybe don't know, when you're earning a PhD, part of that process is typically some sort of really big research project, a dissertation. It is often called, especially in the field of humanities, which Cindy and I both did. And you kind of have some options on what kind of data and what kind of research you do. Cindy is describing what we call qualitative data. And I've actually talked about that on this podcast before. And the reason, just as Cindy said, is because it is a very storytelling. It's from the humans, their words, what we observe of them, and retelling and sharing of that story and looking for themes and patterns. So you're hearing Cindy kind of disseminate all of that. And then the power of a dissertation, the idea is that you're vetted and you show you can step into this world of academia, right, and present this kind of coherent body of work. A dissertation does get published. Typically, it's just in a library kind of setting, but you can go on and find my dissertation and Cindy's dissertation. They're accessible. And so a lot of people do in academia, we'll kind of dive into this a little bit more here in a sec, but one of the next things is a part of being a university professor is you do need to publish. And that is typically in what is called traditional publishing. And we've talked about that on this podcast as well, meaning there's some outside body, whether it's a journal or a publisher, publishing company, that looks at your work, looks at your writing and says, yeah, we think this has legs. We think this is worthwhile. It kind of gets a stamp and then it heads into whatever publication process. So Cindy took on that, put herself out there with her dissertation, and it got accepted from a traditional publisher. She went through the process of, usually you get assigned an editor of some sorts. You make any small changes that might be needed in order for it to go from dissertation to book. And then it goes out into the world, cover, all of that. The same process that we support our clients in as they're self-publishing. It's the same process. It's just done through a different setup. The thing is, that's I think is so interesting with Cindy is these stories and this dissemination and understanding of all students receiving what they need in a classroom setting is, as Cindy said, like not new. It's something that I think is more imperative than ever. And so I love how, Cindy, you're talking about the story never left you. These stories, these stories of these schools, of these kids never left you. And this is an important body of work. And you could have said, well, I published it traditionally. It didn't really sell. I didn't know I was supposed to market. They didn't really, like there wasn't a lot that happened with the book in terms of sales and it getting out there and all that kind of stuff. Talk about like what made you feel comfortable, or like the process of then going, hey, because Cindy basically took the book back and it is now self-published, new title, new cover, all the things. So talk to us about that process a little bit, because it's something we've really been having a lot of conversations about around traditional publishing and around, especially in like higher ed and academia, where that is the way, publish or perish, right? And like, well, what does publish mean? So talk to us a little bit about that process.
So it just hit me on a retreat with Shayna in September, sitting on the lake talking about books, that this book is important. And the stories of these students and of these teachers and of these administrators are important. And it was imperative for me as a researcher and a writer to get these stories in front of people. And the only way I could see to do that, I wrote the publisher and asked if we could have a new marketing push. What could I do? And they were like, no, there's not really. So I said, well, can I have it back and do it myself? And there was some back and forth on that and a lot of paperwork and a lot of legal stuff, but I did get it back and eventually. And so my reason for getting the rights back for me, the reason was to get it out into the world under what I see as the correct title, because one of the things that happens in traditional publishing is they say, not this, but this, not this, but this. You don't have as much control in traditional.
Typically, it's not your book at that point. I mean, it's your words, your name is on it, but they own the rights. Just to remind everyone, when you traditionally publish, they own the rights of the book.
So if they want to change the title, they get to change the title. And you can push back, and I have pushed back. But anyway, so it's not a book about middle school. That was the first thing that came to me. The problem, the reason people aren't reading this book is that it's not a book about middle school, and middle school is right there in the title. The case study happens in the middle school, but it's a book about students, children, in schools in the United States, now K-12.
Yeah.
And it's not a research book. And the title was very researchy. And so anyone who, it's more of a story. And so people looked at the title and thought, well, this is for graduate students only who are interested in activity theory and critical discourse analysis. And this is not that. So I wanted to remarket it in a way to get it in more hands, the hands of policymakers, the hands of pre-service teachers, but also the hands of parents and people, humans who have been that bad student, who couldn't sit in the circle for whatever reason, or sit in the chair, or I'm thinking of my sweet husband whose mother got called in when he was in first grade because he sat upside down in the chair all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and we all know these people, whether we're teachers or academics or not, and this book is their story.
Yeah.
So you're not the only one. There are a lot of them. A lot of us. I count myself. A lot of us box buster outers out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think anytime, right, like this is the power of books and the power of getting your words out there, is it allows other people to go, oh, I thought it was just me. Okay, here's somebody else who's like telling my story, or I can see myself in this story. And that's what I really hear you saying is if you're sitting here and, maybe you have I'm thinking really a lot of parents here who have children who, yeah, get the call. I'm raising my hand. I get the call about, made a PowerPoint about the color purple on the Chromebook. Well, he had already done his work. This is my son, already done his work, already completed. And it then became a disruption. And then I had to get a phone call. And then it was a and it's like, yes, of course, I can have conversations with our students, with our children about these things. And I can see it plain as day. He's basically being asked to play the game of school and to sit there quietly once he's done his work. Why aren't we asking questions about why is the time spent on the laptop? And that's what's happening. And then what is he supposed to do when he gets done? He was told he can't read, he can't, which is something he loves to do. Like all these interesting things of what we tell children, and it's a systematic issue. It's not a teacher specific issue. I don't think it's even a school specific issue or an administrative specific issue. Those are important factors. But, when we literally, I can see, and this is part of the work that we do with our clients is to reignite that version of them that got told, no, you can't write. You're not a good writer. You're not a good learner. You're not a good fill in the blank, or you struggled in school. It's probably just because like you're saying, you didn't fit into the box and there was no opportunity for you to explore what you did fit into or what did get you excited. And so I think just reading something like this to have that validation of it's not just me, or it's not just my kid, or it's not just my students, or these might be students I encounter in the future. It's just really important to see ourselves and our stories in books like this.
And I think back to your earliest podcast when you first started this adventure of the written compass and about language and the language of school versus the language of home. And all of this is all up in this book.
Right.
And it is important for parents and policymakers, not just graduate students in PhD programs.
Yes, totally. And it's accessible in that way. Like you've written it in such a way that it is totally accessible. So the book is out. I want to make sure we know where to get it in just a second, but I'm curious how it feels. I know you've done some things. I know you've been seen in some interesting ways lately, but how does it feel to have the book republished, kind of a little bit more on your terms?
Well, that's a good question. I have to think about that for a second. It feels more like me. The book and the message and down to the cover and the title are all what I meant it to be to begin with. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then just I'm really proud of it. I'm proud of the book. I'm proud of the work. I'm not feeling like, is that really me? It fits.
Yeah.
It fits. And I mean, I guess to bring it full circle, I was out of the box of the traditional publishing world and didn't fit, even after I had published 4 books traditionally, didn't fit. And this feels so much more comfortable.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, like, because there's a lot of people, and I think this is an interesting, I don't know if movement might be a little too strong, but you're not the first author who's, been published traditionally who has made shifts, whether it is taking their book back and republishing it as a self-published book, or just saying, here no further, and self-publishing, after traditionally publishing. I've done that as well. And again, it's all about alignment and fit, but I do think there's a really interesting conversation, and I know Cindy and I want to keep having it. So if it's one you're interested in, definitely ping us to have it. But I do think it's this interesting conversation around What is more important, that a book gets into people's hands and gets sold so that it can be used and the message can get out there, or that it's got a traditionally published stamp on it, in the copyright page, which for the general population, if I asked you like who published the book that you're reading right now, besides a few select people, like most people are going to have no idea at all whatsoever. So it really is just interesting to me what it means and who's deciding that. I mean, I'm kind of having a little meta moment on like getting schooled on resistance and the stories that you tell of those kind of that K through 12 population. It's an interesting conversation, I think, as adults too, on continuing to get schooled on resistance and finding that resistance. And I think, Cindy, like your work from your coaching, your writing, your yogaing, all that, like you really try to embody and embrace ideas of resistance just in general, which really don't mean resistance. It just means usually like just being fully you, which often gets viewed as resistance.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So tell us, so Getting Schooled on Resistance, an exploration of clashing narratives in urban school reform. You can get that wherever you typically get your books, Barnes & Noble, online, bookshop.org, Amazon, all the good things. And then Cindy, if people want, and we'll have the links in the show notes, and for people who want to get connected with you, what are some best ways for them to do that right now? What are you up to?
You can just send me an email at cindy@cindyurbanski.com. You can visit my website to see what all the things I am up to at cindyurbanski.com. And then just for funsies, my Instagram handle is Cindy_D_Urbanski. And you'll see all sorts of things there, book stuff, yoga stuff, all the things.
Dog stuff.
Dog stuff. Yes, I had a yoga dog writing post the other day, so go check that one out.
Yeah, absolutely. Cindy, as always, so wonderful to talk to you. Please go and get this book. Give this book to someone who maybe has been this kid in school or has these children right now. In many ways, I think all of us.
I was going to say that is all the people.
Yeah, it's all the people. In many ways, we have had moments where we did not feel like we belonged in a school setting or a particular classroom situation. So I think we can all relate to these clashing narratives and these moments of resistance and what that experience was like. So as always, so good to talk to you. And thank you so much for joining us and following the Written Compass. As always, we want to hear your feedback, what resonated with you. And when you get the book, make sure you leave a review for Cindy and connect with her. She is amazing and is doing amazing stuff. So I'll talk to you soon because I'm always talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Written Compass. If you are enjoying this content, do me a favor and go and review the podcast. This allows me to share and get these messages out to the people who really need them, who we want to read their books in the future. You can also go and share your thoughts and tag me at Shana Hartman _ on Instagram. Again, this is just a way for us to get connected and share the writing love. And if you know that you are ready to write your book, that message that's been burning inside of you for a long time, then I want to talk to you. My team and I want to talk to you. Head on over to shanahartman.com and click Work with Us. From there, you'll see an application to explore and see if writing your book is your next best step.